Okay, everyone, welcome to this short math video on measurement, something we're going to be spending a little bit of time on. And what we're going to be looking at is how we can measure objects using tools. And of course, we need to know what kinds of tools to use. There are many different ways of measuring, and there are different units. And we'll talk more about units in a later video. So the one that we're basically going to start with is the inch. Now this ruler shows us two units of measurement. The little numbers on the left side are the centimeters. The bigger ones are the inches. We're not going to talk too much about centimeters yet. That's coming up in the next video. So like I said, we're going to focus on inches. Now, a centimeter is about the size of that yellow square. So two of those yellow squares are 2 centimeters. An inch is the size of that red square. And you can see an inch is a little bit bigger than 2 centimeters. Now, if you don't have a ruler, you could use a quarter, which is about an inch, or you could use a small paper clip. Now, a lot of times when we measure things, we find that they're not exactly 1 inch or 2 inch or 3 inches. So we need to estimate. We need to get close. When we use a ruler, we always want to be sure we go to the 0 line of the ruler. We don't want to start at the edge. We want to be sure we're actually starting at 0. Now look at that green line. And now here comes a yellow line. That's 1 inch right there. Now, if you're watching this on a big computer screen or on your TV, that's not a real inch. You'd have to look at a ruler or a quarter to see that. You can see this strawberry is longer than an inch. Now, that next yellow line is 2 inches, and that last one is 3 inches. So if somebody asked us how long the strawberry was, and I'm only counting the fruit part, not the leafy part, well, I have a problem because it's more than 1, but it's shorter than 2. So what we have to do is look at the midpoint. Now look at that blue line. It's pointing to a line that's almost as long as the 1 and 2 inch markers. That's the halfway point. The strawberry doesn't go that far. So we're going to say this is about 1 inch long. If it were longer past the blue line, we would say it's about 2 inches long. And you can see with this key, which we line up right at our 0 inch line, well, it's not 3 inches, but it does look like it's exactly 2 inches. That's an easy one. How long is the key? It's 2 inches long. But remember how I said things are not always perfect? Well, there's 0 and there's 2. So it's longer than 1 inch, but it's shorter than 2 inches. But it does go past the halfway mark. It's closer to 2 than 1, so we're going to say it's about 2 inches. Okay, and here's the key again. We have it lined up at 0. It's definitely shorter than 2 inches. And it doesn't reach the halfway point between the 1 and the 2, so we're going to say it's about 1 inch, even though it's a little bit longer. Here we have a box of crayons. It's lined up at the 0 inch mark. And we can see in this example that it's 3 inches. Great! But then for this part here, it doesn't quite reach the 4 inch line, but it is past the halfway point, so it's closer to 4. We're going to say that this box of crayons is about 4 inches long. Then we have a clothespin. You can probably tell already, just by looking at it, that this is 3 inches long. But in this case, well, we can see that it's past the 4-inch line and it doesn't reach the halfway mark. So we're going to say this is about 4 inches. Okay, and then let's look at this crayon. These are all small objects I'm using, right? It's not exactly 3 inches, but it is past the halfway point. So what are we going to say? It's about 3 inches. Okay, because it's past the halfway point between the 2 and the 3. Now this is part of an electric guitar. And the guitar is too big really to be measured with this little ruler, which only has 12 inches on it. So even if we line it up there, we're never going to be able to measure it with just a little stick, a little ruler. So for small objects, we can use a ruler. For medium-sized objects, we can use a yardstick. For large objects, we can use a tape measure or measuring tape. So to measure the guitar, I'd probably use a yardstick or a tape measure or a yardstick. I could do it with a ruler, but I would need to stack a couple of them together. If I were measuring a peach, which is pretty small, I could do it with a ruler. And of course, if I were measuring something really big like a school bus, I would use a tape measure. So why don't you grab a ruler or a tape measure or a yardstick and measure things around the house? We'll practice some more next week. That's it for now. The end.